Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 97, where you join myself, Chris, alongside one of my hosts, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
Hello.
And alongside him, we have a very special guest. We did tease him a long time ago, not in person, but we teased him for the podcast. Joining us all the way from the Nerf Report, the host, in fact, one Mr. Bryant Chappel. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning or good afternoon for you guys.
Very good morning. We should point out to our listeners, it's that dark where you are because the sun's not even risen yet. It's
yeah,
actually...
I normally would do coffee, but in honor for my previous fellow Britons, I guess you guys are in Britain, right?
Yeah.
Great Britain. Yeah. I got some tea for you this morning. I mean,
fantastic.
We threw it over the ship back in the old days, but we drink a ton of it now, so we're just like...
That's it. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
what brand? I feel like I need to ask what brand as a Brit.
Unfortunately, it is Lipton, which is probably the most like white trash tea you can get in America.
Is it iced?
No, it's hot. So
good. Have you got milk in there? Yeah. That's my important question.
I just do it black.
I mean, you're doing it wrong already, but you can be forgiven. This isn't a podcast, thankfully, where we scrutinise tea. It's all about Stadia news and gaming news, and I'm sure many of our viewers, I think half our audience is over here in England as well. I'm sure they'll have stuff to say in the comments below, but that's not why you're here. You're here as an honoured guest. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're going to be talking about all of the Stadia and gaming news because we've got a fantastic show lined up for our viewers and listeners already today. We're going to be breaking down all of the August Pro games that just went live as of yesterday, time of recording. In fact, at the time of watching this on the Monday, Grime only just came out today, so we'll be digging into all that. We'll be talking about new games arriving, free-to-play weekends, some great updates from the development team behind the scenes at Stadia, which is making your games better for you and better for the audiences out there, a couple more game ratings, and some updates for some big AAA titles on the platform. But before we do get into all that juicy news with our lovely guest and Richie, just a quick reminder, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel below, and click that bell so you are kept in the loop with all things here at Sounds of Stadia. We do live streams, we do Let's Plays, we do community discussion in our Discord chat, so don't forget to click on that link below too. And more importantly, we bring you the Sounds of Stadia podcast and a fantastic topical SideQuest, which is, again, another great episode this week we've got lined up. So you can get all that content, and if you don't click the bell, you don't get reminded, and then you could forget about us, and we'll just slip away into the ether of the internet, and you'll never know who we are or what we look like, or if we put milk in our tea ever again. But yes... Big show this week, but before we get into all of that stuff, quick one. Brian, I want to give you a bit of a platform here just to talk about your channel. If for some reason our audience, which I know are guaranteed 99% of them should have already heard about you and your amazing Nerf Report channel, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Bryant. I am the host and executive producer of the Nerf Report, which is a daily gaming news show. We talk primarily about cloud gaming in general is kind of what the main topic is about. So very heavy on Google Stadia, but we also talk about, Amazon Luna, kind of some of the emerging platforms of like what Walmart's doing and Netflix and of course PlayStation and occasionally some GeForce Now stuff, but kind of a revolving library. We do a morning show that's like a deep dive into a topic, and then in the afternoon it's just kind of like, here's everything that happened in the day, just one show to watch. And it's kind of like the idea that we took all the day's gaming news and nerfed it into one show, essentially. So you can just, 3 minutes of your time, and you know everything that happened today.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. And if you've not checked out that, go do. I often find myself watching the videos because it's all well. We use Stadia Source, I'm sure you do, for so much of your news. And shout out to Dan and the team over there. But there's something about having it in video format in a 21st century world with the TikTok crew out there. It's much easier for me, again, to just digest with having someone as charismatic as yourself bringing that. I love the little bit of comedy you sprinkle into your videos sometimes as well. It does make it sometimes more digestible than an article as such, to really land home in the back of these neuro synapses at the back here. Sometimes they record things better through video than they do the written words. So thank you for everything you do over there. And like I said, check it out if you haven't done so already.
I watch it a lot at work, so I can take in the news while I'm actually doing my job.
Yeah. It's
Like,
interesting.
which is easier than like reading articles. So
Yeah, it's interesting you guys say that because like I've that's kind of what spawned creating the channel was because all these major news publications of like IGN, Kotaku, GameSpot, all of these people, they're still posting, articles. And I'm like, man, it's 2021. You would think that with with companies that big that not only would you post an article, but you'd have like a video format of that article, even if it's reading word for word what that article is, just because there are so many different types of gamers that want to consume media differently. You have the gamers who want to read articles, you have the gamers like us who like watching videos, but then you also have gamers like your audience who may prefer, hey, I just want audio. I don't want anything else. I may be driving in the car right now, which if you are, make sure your headlights are on, check your blinkers, stop at the stop signs. But it's interesting how gaming media still hasn't really jumped on board to ensure that you kind of have all the different media contents available for stuff like that.
Yeah, it certainly is interesting, and there's been a lot of massive shifts. And us again, as soon as we started this podcast, we were dead set and we wanted it on audio feeds, podcast services, because again, as a listening show, I listen to so many of my gaming podcasts through audio whilst I'm at work, whilst I'm driving, and it's so easy to consume. And sometimes, yeah, you don't have the time to prioritize, but that was one of our key things early doors to get on. I know you're a kind of funny fan as well, right?
Yeah, Greg Miller.
That's how I consume a lot of their content. The movie reviews, the game reviews, it's just stick it on. 2 hours of my life is gone, but I'm also being proactive. I'm in the garden doing something, I'm at work, I'm driving. And it is just so much easier than reading a 7-page review of a video game or something. And you get people's impressions, and like as you'll know, you just kind of agree with you kind of get on the same page as them. You realize your hobbies and stuff line up, your interests, and then you kind of think actually it's much better than just reading a 7-page review article on something from someone you don't know. And I think that's definitely the way the industry's flipped. So when we're all on that crazy train. So my follow-up question, I guess, Brian, while we have you on, is what made you lean into the Stadia content a little bit? I know you're quite neutral across the board, but I think you're one of probably the early people who you didn't look at it through the lens of a lot of journalism sites have done. And I think your early videos, I remember people sharing them going like, oh, look at this honest take on Stadia. And I think it was just refreshing to see people not suddenly go down the throat of it doesn't work, it's crap, X, Y, Z. It was just actually the tech works, and you've kind of just built up, like we've just kind of grown with the community.
Yeah, I think that, there's two things that attracted me to Stadia. The first thing that attracted me is obviously it's a brand new technology, and, the idea that you don't need consoles or anything like that. Like that's a dream. I travel a lot for my normal job, and when I'm going, I've got a suitcase, or previously I had a suitcase that was filled with like my PlayStation, my Switch, and all the accessories that are necessary. And it was like, that was such a hassle to pack up. So when Stadia came out, I was like, wait, you're telling me all I need is a Chromecast, or all I need is my phone and a controller, and I can have that entire suitcase replaced? And that was definitely the big attracting factor. But then, I mean, I was pretty heavily involved into content creation, and then I saw Stadia as a source of revenue as well, from the perspective of they're like, hey, if you do a video, or at the end of a video, you could be able to jump into a video game immediately. And then I started clicking of like, it's already huge where you've got like the Dr. Disrespects of the world, and you've got like the ninjas of the world, where they play a game when they're selling it, but oftentimes they're not getting a kickback on that sale. So from the idea of a content perspective, where I could post a video about like Assassin's Creed, and then Google Stadia would be like, hey, put this affiliate link at the end of your video, and then you could start getting revenue. Granted, there's a fine line between being money hungry and being ethical in that point. But at the same point, it's just like, content creation is hard. So any extra source of revenue that you can add on there, I mean, that definitely is going to intrigue me from that perspective as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest and caveats, I think, that makes Stadia that little bit different, that slight change from the traditional formula that breaks it up a little bit. And they're only growing.
I think it's important to note too that every cloud gaming platform has their own little unique thing that makes them special, and I think that's what's so exciting about cloud gaming as a genre, right? Is that every single one of them, whether it be Stadia or Luna or GeForce or Xbox, they've got their unique gimmick, kind of like in the old WWF days, and it's like that's what makes them cool. Like this is why it's here, or this is why you should check it out. And I think it's going to blur a little bit here in the next couple of years, but I think that cloud gaming as it evolves is only going to get better, and Stadia is only going to get better. And that's one of the things that, kind of going back to your earlier question, Stadia was the first console to launch since the Xbox, and I think that you have a whole generation of journalists and influencers who have just understood that Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo, that's all we have, and they haven't been around for that introduction of a console and the building of a community and the building of a user base. So when something comes out, they immediately expect it to be PlayStation, or they immediately expect it to be as good as Netflix, and it's like that's not how things work.
Yeah, it's human nature. We've said many times, podcasts, humans just don't like change, full stop, and it's so hard to introduce them. But gradually, over time, that new generations come through, newer people, new children grow up, and this is now all they know. There's going to be so many people out there who will grow up just playing on the phone, because that we've seen it with mobile games and such. That's all they know, and that's not strange to them. Whereas I don't know about you, but I know me and Richie, we barely play mobile games because we prefer your traditional console. We are console gamers usually first and foremost. But you're telling me there's going to be millions upon millions of children who've been given a smartphone from the time they were sat in a pram or a buggy, and that's all they've ever played on the mobile, and they don't care. They don't care about Xbox, PlayStation, because they grew up with everything. They've had access to the internet since the second they popped out in the hospital, so they just don't know. And it's it's an interesting time, and it's only going to grow and get bigger. And like it's such a young place industry right now, still with cloud gaming. Like you said, there are going to be some changes. There is going to be some alterations as well, and I'm just happy we're along for the ride as far as we're concerned.
Well, and I think the interesting note about mobile is, like, I look at my niece, who is, I think, 7 or 8 years old, and she's obsessed with Minecraft, like any kid that age is at this point. And when they were over for Easter this year, she was, sitting on my couch playing Minecraft with touch controls. And if you've never played Minecraft on the mobile app, the touch controls are atrocious.
Yeah.
So it's like, you look at how many times... Yeah, you look at how many times like people will post videos, right? And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna review this controller," or "This controller's trash." It's like there's a whole generation of kids playing video games right now on touch controls, and it's like controllers don't matter. Like, and having unique features like that don't matter. It's like all kids want is to be able to play games. And to your point, it's going to be interesting 10, 15 years from now when those kids are kind of in our position of, where is the video game industry and what is popular still?
Minecraft will still be here as well.
Yes.
Bigger than ever, taking over the world. Fantastic insight, and like I said, I'm sure the Nerf Report will be there to report on every last piece of it.
Yes, hopefully we're owned by like CNN by that point.
10 cent have got that check ready to go.
THQ maybe.
Oh yeah, or the Embracer Group will absorb everyone and everything. Fantastic. So before we dive into that final couple of pieces, I'm very intrigued to know, Richie, what have you been playing this past week?
I've actually jumped back into Mass Effect.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
Getting back on the train.
It's still the loudest game known to man. Usually I'll have my TV set to like 30, and that seems like a good volume. It's down to 10, and it was still loud in points. So you still need your TV remote next to you to turn it down or up. But the audio balancing seems to be adjusted quite a lot. It's not perfect, but it's good enough to actually play again. And it's not like I was playing last night for quite a few hours, and it didn't detract from the gameplay, which it was before.
That's good.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm persevering through Mass Effect 2, so I'm a game ahead of Rich at the moment. Of course, Brian, sat there, PlayStation, Xbox, you cover everything. We would have loved to play these on Stadia, and it was one of the fingers crossed EA games we were hoping for, like a nice little curveball surprise out of nowhere. Here's 3 games under one game umbrella. And it didn't come. So, and neither of us have ever played Mass Effect before. I don't know what your history is with the franchise, but what a better time to jump in than with three remasters, remake kind of things of them all. And I'm thoroughly enjoying number 2. Told it was the best one, so going good so far. How about yourself? What have you been playing this past week? If you even have any time to play games.
Yeah, that I jokingly said that to someone this week. I was like, I started becoming a content creator to get free video games, and I don't have time to play games. But this week I was able to carve off some time. I've been playing Control again on Stadia, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, I mean that's just such a fun game. It's such a solid experience.
That's another one I need to go back to. I've got it on PS5 as well because it was their PS Plus game.
It
I
was.
played for one evening. It didn't fully grip me, and I never went back. Then I had other things on going as well, so
That's
it's on the list to go back to.
That's the life of a gamer. Yeah, I fought the urge to purchase it on Stadia, thinking it will go down in price because I like Richie. I purchased it. I played it. Got the platinum on PlayStation way back when it came out. Felt a little peeved off by the whole Ultimate Edition thing, and people who pre-bought the game didn't have any pathway to getting a discount upgraded game. So I'm kind of like, I'm in that thing where it's, do I speak with my wallet by not purchasing it? But then it's a great game. But then thankfully it's arrived at the time of pro games are about to drop. So I'm also thinking, I'm just about to get 5 games in several days. I can be patient. I'm telling adult Chris to just hold off. Hold off.
Control is a game I think is highly likely to go pro at some point.
Eventually, yes. Yeah.
Well, we fingers crossed. I was hoping it would be an August one, but then it's stealth drop. But we'll get into all that. So, Control, it's a great game. Have you fully completed before then, Bryant? Story-wise,
I believe I was probably about 60 to 70% through, and then of course, just like you guys, something else popped up, or some new battle pass dropped or something like that drew me away from it.
Classic video games.
But I haven't played the DLC, so that's the part I'm actually looking forward to.
That was one of my pet peeves. I purchased the season pass because I love the game so much. Fest DLC came out, and then the whole Ultimate Edition thing was announced and came out. So I thought, I'll play it when the full set's out, and then that whole thing happened. I was like, I'll play it in its entirety with the Ultimate Edition. And like Richie mentioned, then we got it as PlayStation Plus, so I have the full game. Sat through there to play on my PlayStation 5, so it's almost like, am I buying it on Stadia just for the sake of supporting the platform? So then it's this whole back and forth. But just like you find with content creation, you spend more time probably watching games and watching clips and trailers and footage of games than you do actually playing them sometimes. So I've got some time set aside for that. But speaking of setting time aside, of course, Tom, the third member of the Sounds of Stadia crew, is still away on paternity leave. And we do need to do a massive congratulations shout out for Tom and Holly and the new birth of little baby Joshua. Was born last week. Little techie teacher baby was born last week. Won't disclose any more information. That's private, of course. But what we would love you to do, we do have a little hashtag challenge we do here every week, Bryant, where because Tom's not here, between friends, it's traditional that you usually give them loads of shit and wind them up and chew them when they're not here. So what we've been doing is every Monday we've been asking our lovely audience out there, our viewers and listeners, to just send Tom a random hashtag. Last week it was human DLC, because we came to the conclusion that babies are just human DLC. They cost a lot. They're usually added on to the original content, and you get where we're going with that. So as someone who is also an expecting father later this year, congratulations to yourself and your partner as well.
Thank
you. We look forward. We saw you dropped obviously the scan photo, I think, a few weeks back now. Exciting times, but also busy times. Not great for a gamer out there. So what we'd like, Brian, is if you've got any top tips for Tom, anything you've read in those baby books, any of those, what are the classes you got to do? I would say LeMars?
Yeah, the Lamaze Berlin classes. Yeah. I've got mine scheduled for the next couple weeks, and it's too late for him, but the big tip that I've been told is sleep up, man. Like, get your sleep now. But I think the other thing that I would say is that just, grab onto those moments, because I look at my brother's kids, dude, and like they grew up so freaking fast, and I think that's going to be like the first year or 2 years of when my daughter's finally here. It's like things are going to change a little bit, just because it's like you want to take in every single one of those moments, because a kid can go from like a little baby that comes out all the way to an 18-year-old in the matter of a blink these days. It's crazy.
It really, really is. Yeah. So
was I supposed to give like a nice warm-hearted? tip?
The tip's fine. What you can do if you
okay.
you can so we've got the hashtag this week, so you can create a
Okay.
hashtag for him if you'd like. Anything can be
Okay.
random, can be something to wind him up,
Okay.
whatever you like.
No pressure.
Hashtag.
Hashtag we'll be enjoying games while you're not playing, or
We didn't set a length, so yeah. Hashtag why you're not playing games,
I
or
guess it's 250 characters, right? Yeah.
as long as it's within the Twitter limit, yeah.
Hashtag what I'm playing while you're not sleeping, or there we go. Yeah, hashtag what I'm playing while you're not sleeping, and then everybody just tweet him the video games you're playing right now.
Oh, that's he'll love that, I'm sure. Although he did say to us this week during his night shifts, we'll call them, he's decided to go through and watch all the Star Wars movies again. So although he's not asleep, he's obviously got content out there to keep him busy, and I'm sure he'll be checking in on us to just remind us that he is in fact watching the show. And he knows we try and get him with this every week. So congratulations again to Tom and Holly, and we look forward to seeing more of little baby Joshua in the future and see what kind of gamer he grows up into. But without further delay, gentlemen, I think it's about time we dive into the juicy news this week. So Brian, if you could do us the honours in Tom's absence and introducing us to
the super sexy special Stadia Stories segment, aka the news.
The news. It is indeed. Thank you very much, Brian. Again, time-honored tradition here that Tom would read that out. I would also, time-honored tradition, put the graphic up very late. So there's the news graphic for you all there, just playing catch-up. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, it's been a very busy week for Stadia. We always love this time of the month because it means news for us, it means games for you. So let's break it down. First up on the docket, we've got Killer Queen Black dropping. I think it's one of probably the most arcadey fun action game we've played on Stadia in a while. We've played with our community a little bit on our Thursday night live streams. We give away some codes, and it was so fun. I can't stress, from my point of view, how much fun Killer Queen Black is. It doesn't take long to learn. The games aren't very long, so if you've got half an hour here or there to kill literally with some bugs, get at it. Brian, have you played much of Killer Queen Black?
I've played the arcade version. I haven't had a chance to go into the Stadia version.
Interesting. So, what's your take on the arcade version then? Because I know this is a lot of the back and forth. I've not seen one in person in arcade. I know they exist.
Yeah, so the arcade is pretty sick because there's like I want to say it's 4 joysticks on one side, and then on the other side of the cabinet there's another 4 sticks. So you're playing against other people. If you have a full roster, I mean it's a blast, man. Like because it's just the trash talking among gamers and stuff like that. But no, it's a fun game, and it's one of those that I think was desperately needed on Stadia. And hopefully this is one of those games that stays on Stadia Pro for a long time, because I think that this is one of those casual games that with the new pro market or the pro strategy that they're doing, I think could actually benefit, because I think people will jump into this and play it more than one day in a row and kind of keep going and play with friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, it really is. Richie?
Well, I've played with you. We have live stream. We've done it. Is it 2 live streams we've done Killer Queen Black?
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did one with giveaway codes, and we just had that much
Yeah.
fun. We returned back to it again.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember the devs were awesome with us. They actually jumped in and played with us.
Yeah,
That was awesome. Yeah.
They put us to task on how good they were, obviously making the game. But it's just frantic, crazy action fun, and everyone forgets about the snail. Everyone forgets about the snail, and there it is, just going slowly
Snail
along.
victory is the only true victory.
Some would say in Killer Queen Black lore. So yeah, shout out to Liquid Bit Games and the crew over there. But if you've not played Killer Queen Black, now you can claim it as a pro title. Go enjoy it in all its frenetic fun. Following on from that, we also are getting Valkyria Chronicles 4. Richie, I'll probably throw this one over to you. I'm not too clued up on Valkyria Chronicles, but I know you've had this sudden energy burst of Japanese-inspired games.
Yes, I've been playing a lot of JRPGs recently. I must admit, this is one that I wasn't that interested in when it first came, but now it's a pro game, and maybe I'll give it a fair chance. Or it depends how much Mass Effect grips me at the moment. But yeah, I'm excited to jump into it. It's an action strategy RPG, so it's very different to what I've been playing. But I've never played one of the games before, so yeah.
Yeah, it's a little more tactical. It's It's one of those where it seems it's a standalone RPG, so you don't have to have played the previous entries to get into it.
Yeah, it's a style of game I don't think I've ever really played much, so that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in playing it. Just it's always nice to try new stuff.
Yeah, very well reviewed as well, and it is the complete edition, we should point out, so that comes with all the bonus content, all the add-on missions, any unlockable rewards, and includes a little bit of cosmetic stuff in there too. So if you are keen on Valkyria Chronicles, or you've not scratched that JRPG itch, again, it's just another example of Stadia giving a varied lineup on these pro titles. It's not just the same stuff time and time again, because when I look at this list, there is always a couple that rise to the top, but I'm always happy that there's something for everyone. It's just not just one standalone title. Brian, any history with the Valkyria Chronicles world?
No. JRPGs aren't really for me. I've played a couple. Like, I think you can qualify Final Fantasy as JR. Can you?
Yeah. Final Fantasy is pretty much the epitome of JRPG.
Yeah, so 7 and 10 are probably the only JRPGs I've played in my life. And then other than that, it's hard for me to get into them at this point.
No, I think I'm in the same boat. So much as my only real JRPG, it's probably been Pokemon, and that's like baby's first RPG, I'd say, for that on that side.
Awesome.
Undoubtedly, I have such a good spot in my heart. I've been wearing a Pikachu t-shirt all morning, but in terms of the other stuff, I don't know if it's because a lot of these games never came to the West initially, or they were never accessible to me as a child. So then now we're up to the 7th, 8th, 15th entry in the series. I feel like I'm so far gone, and even when they say it's a standalone, it's still it doesn't quite get me in the door as much as some of like the more Western leaned RPGs do.
My roots in JRPGs are very much Pokemon. Like, played the hell out of Pokemon when I was younger. Still play now. I haven't actually played Sword and Shield though. But then my first Final Fantasy was actually Final Fantasy X. I was like, this reminds me of Pokemon, only a bit more grown up, which I was into. And then I was just hooked on the genre.
Yeah. See, it's funny you guys classify Pokemon as a JRPG, because that's something that, it makes sense, and I can see it. I definitely just don't consider it, like, it didn't even cross my mind. I've definitely played Pokemon, but I don't know why I didn't classify it as a JRPG. But yeah, Pokemon's good, man. If we're saying Pokemon's are JRPGs, I'm in.
All over the place. Yeah.
I think it ticks all the boxes for what a JRPG is, or at least traditionally. I know the genre is now kind of expanded, and there's like action JRPGs, but your traditional like turn-based, strategy-based JRPGs, like Pokemon ticks every single box.
It's that thing growing up with it though. As a child, you're none the wiser where this material comes from. I remember having my mind blown when someone told me that the Power Rangers live action show was actually the Japanese version, just redubbed with American edits in between the actual fight scenes. And I only learned that like as an adult, probably a few years back. And it's that in between Pokemon, how they changed certain words. So I think they called them donuts, but they're actually rice cakes or something in the original one. And I always remember as a child thinking, that looks nothing like a donut. That's weird. But it's just thinking, it's just a different world they live in. And obviously it was all just converted and ported over and such. So a lot of the games exactly the same. And we've seen Stadia really, really double down on this kind of market, which we said before, really interesting, not available in Japan. Yeah, there's this sudden flood of games coming from kind of that part of the world. So hopefully only a matter of time. Like the actual platform isn't available in Japan.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. There's some very, very like niche JRPGs, like the East series. Like I'd never even heard of before it came to Stadia.
Yeah, when we hit our 200th episode of the Nerf Report, we got very close to having Stadia come on the show, and that was one of the questions I had was like, when you come to a new market, what do you guys look for? Is there a certain distance to a server that you need to have, or is there certain that the country has to have a minimum internet connection of this, or it's like that's the thing I want to know, because like you guys, you probably see the comments all the time of like, when is Stadia coming to India? When is Stadia coming to Japan? Or when is Stadia coming here? Brazil's another one that I always see. So I think I just really want to know that answer. Like, what do you look for in that new market?
Yeah, one of the things we often pose out to our audience, in case there are any of them out there, is when they expanded to those additional 5 countries, Romania, Switzerland, I forget what the rest of them were, we've seen no change in uptake in people. There's no one who's reached out to us, said, I'm from Romania, I play Stadia. And I just think they expanded to these countries now. I feel like we've heard nothing, we've seen nothing. We didn't know which version of the Premier Edition was going to be boxed over there because at that time the new Chromecast with Google TV was out, so we didn't know if they were going to sell the old variant or the new one packaged in with it somehow, which is actually a story for later on in the show. But yeah, it's interesting how they added additional 5 countries, and I don't know about you as well, but we've seen no kind of change in listenership or viewership from those countries. It's almost as though it never actually launched there. You would expect a spike almost, like when Australia goes live, between us, English-speaking market, big population, like video games, although their rating system is a bit weird, but we would expect an English-speaking country to pick up on it, and yet Australia's another one that's probably going to be last on the list due to their internet infrastructure, so time will tell.
It's the interesting, caveat from a content creator, because you do get to kind of see the analytics side of it. So you wonder, who's consuming what. And I always have to remind myself that, like, my audience doesn't dictate kind of what the average Stadia player is, because there's so many people out there who just come home from work, they play a video game, and they don't go on YouTube or they don't listen to a podcast. And I tend to find that, like, my viewership at least is like maybe a 20% of gamers, I would say, like that. I would break it off as 20%, and they're definitely hardcore gamers who care passionately about the things that are going on in the industry. But then you have that other 80% who, play Call of Duty. That's the only game they play the entire year, or they play FIFA from 2018, or Madden from 2020, or whatever it is, and they don't buy a new game. Like, I saw a statistic recently that was like the average gamer buys 1 game a year. So it's like, when you put it into that perspective, it's like, it's just kind of changes, the view of the industry, because, I pick up 1 game a month, maybe, or 2 games a month, but I don't know why I went off on that tangent.
Yeah. I'd be actually a massive advocate of, say, targeting them gamers, because if you're someone who buys just FIFA every single year, and that's all you buy, then Stadia gives you an option to do that without having to pay £450 for a console.
Yeah, it's the barrier to entry is absolute minimum, and you're totally right. Yeah, those one game per year players, the mass market games, that's who they appeal to. And back to our conversation earlier on about mobile titles, is Fortnite's on mobile and Call of Duty's on mobile, PUBG's on mobile, and there's a reason they're so successful, because they break down the barriers to entry. And we said time and time again, the difference is with that is you could then get home and continue on your big screen TV or your laptop or something a little bit different than a small little handheld. Because as good as mobile gaming is, the reality is you're also getting peppered with notifications from Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It does more than just games. So at one point you will close that down and go back to your life with your phone. But sometimes it's just good to sit in front of the big TV. Moving on though, things that aren't always as good. Aliens coming to eat our brains, ladies and gentlemen. The next game on your August Pro tiles is It Came From Space and Ate Our Brains. The crux of the game, it's a top-down twin-stick shooter where essentially you kill little pink alien creatures, and it looks loads of fun. It was very reminiscent of Dead Nation on PlayStation, Alien Nation, if you've ever played those type of games. It looks actually quite similar to the upcoming Death Carnival on Stadia. Again, twin-stick top-down shooter. It doesn't really vary that much when it comes to title, but really fun, co-looking game. I think we were going to actually do a Let's Play or something on it, Richie, at one point. I can't remember. I think something, probably the Rainbow Six Siege or something, or Division. I can't remember what it was. But this is one that I'm definitely keen on having a little play alongside our community with it, because it just looks like crazy simple fun. I'll definitely be playing this one. How about you, Richie? Play it up for that?
Yeah, I might jump in with you one evening or something. But twin six shooters I don't tend to go for, so I'm probably not going to play it sat on my own.
You can be the aliens then.
Yeah.
In that one. How about yourself, Brian? Does this do anything for you?
This is actually the game that I am most hyped for this month. Yeah, out of all of them, this is one that when it was first announced for Stadia, I was always tempted to buy it, because I always enjoyed like Dead Nation. And I also, there's another game called Resogun, which was one of the OG PS4 games. I threw probably like thousands of hours into Resogun, just because it's one of those simple games where there's no really mental capacity that's necessary to play it. Like, you literally just shoot and run, and that's all you have to do. So I'm looking forward to a game like that I can literally just sit down and shut my brain off and just get to play it. So this is the game that I will be playing probably once we sign off.
Once you've woke up a little bit more. Because I think, I know we pointed out with the cup of tea at the moment, but it's very early where you are on a Sunday morning, no doubt. So
no, I mean it's definitely early, but at these points,
it's life.
I'm ready, man. Yeah, it's life. Yeah, get up.
Life.
You got to get up.
That is true. Moving on swiftly to the next tile, we got Epi Story. Typing Chronicles, which is obviously it's an atmospheric adventure typing game, so a little bit different from your traditional norm. It plays into the ability to have lacking mouse and keyboard on Stadia. Again, don't know the answer, but very curious to know how this works with controller. I'm guessing it's just an on-screen keyboard to type out the answer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because I think we theorized this when it was rated. I think it's great. It utilizes the mouse and keyboard, but yeah, I'm guessing. Type the story, it's fictional character. This is the one where you actually type the answers in, right? Or is that Typing Chronicle?
If you're playing this in the controller, you're playing it the wrong way, even if it does support it, because these sort of games, I think, they're designed to help people actually quietly get better at typing. So if you're using a gamepad for that, it's kind of like...
yes, certainly. Well, in the...
Making an odd choice.
Yeah, in the description, it does explicitly say as well, from movement to opening chests and fighting in epic battles, every element in the game is controlled exclusively with the keyboard.
Has anybody tried bridge mode with a mouse and keyboard yet?
Not personally, no. See if that's a workaround.
Yeah, because that would be the only way that I think you could possibly even pull it off on a Chromecast or on something on the screen. But yeah, mouse and keyboard is definitely necessary for this game.
Interesting story through a fantastical world. It looks like a new adventure. There's no other game really like it. I think that's the best thing about this. It's got such a clever artistic choice, and kind of obviously the keyboard lends a lot to it. But yeah, you be the muse and awaken the story, apparently is the tagline. It's also available on Switch, so it definitely works without a keyboard and mouse. So go check that one out. It's one of your other pro titles. Probably for me personally, without playing it down, probably the least interested one for me. But that's just because I prefer to get stuck into all the action, which is why I'm super excited for the final game of the month, which is Grime. Grime is not only available on Stadia, Brian, you pointed out post-show to us as well, that it's only coming to PC and Stadia, so there's no console availability at this moment in time. And not only that, it's also launching on the 2nd, so at the time of listening to the podcast, it's available. Destroy, absorb, and grow. Grime is a fast and unforgiving action-adventure RPG in which you crush your foes with living weapons that mutate and form and function. Consume them and kill them. It's a side-scrolling 2D action-adventure where essentially it looks like it's in some crazy combination of Little Nightmare meets Doom, almost kind of world. The new cinematic trailer they put out, I think last Thursday maybe it dropped, very, very detailed, shows off all the kind of gruesome creatures that you will come across in this world. And for some reason the protagonist reminds me of the main character from Medieval. Even though he doesn't have it. I think it's because the detached purple head he's got, which is just some kind of vortex. But essentially, you absorb your enemies, you take on their traits, their powers, their weapons, and fight back, almost in a 2D landscape. I know we spoke pre-show as well, but the fact that this is, again, another Stadia exclusive, I guess, in that kind of console world that middle ground Stadia lives in, it's a great shout. And this is probably the game for me that's probably going to do it the most. Different, exciting, and brand new, which is always the big get for, I think, pro titles, that you're getting a listed title day and day alongside its global launch. Richie, where are you sitting with Grime? Going to check it out?
Yeah, I'll probably check it out. It's definitely, it reminds me a bit almost like Child of Light, only darker and grittier.
Grimier.
Grimier. I really enjoyed Child of Light, so this might be one of them games that quietly gets its hooks into me. But at the moment, it's like, I'm playing Mass Effect. I still haven't finished Immortals Phoenix Rising. I still want to go back to Control. I want to check out Valkyria Chronicles. Like, there's not enough time in the day.
What you need to do is just quit your job, and then you'll have all the time. How about you, Brian? This doing anything for you?
Yeah, this is definitely probably number 2. I will check this game out for sure. I love any game that has like a dark aesthetic to it. So right up my alley. And then my only fear is that like I hope it's not like a Bloodborne style game where I just rage quit and break my controller somehow. That would be my only concern with this one.
Yeah, that's a similar take to me. I think a few of the games. I'm trying to think what was the one I had. Oh, Hollow Knight. I bought Hollow Knight on Switch last year.
Yeah.
The premise great. The art style absolutely beautiful. The combat and stuff really fun. Far too hard for the time I've got in my life. I after so many deaths, restarting back to that point, like the chapter point or whatever it is. I just put it down because I didn't have the time to learn the game enough to persevere past a certain point in it. At that point, I move on, and Richie, doesn't sound like you've got any time anyway, so that could be a stumbling block for you too. I understand, I appreciate what these games do, just like the Dark Souls, Demon Souls titles, but yeah, someone who's only got so many hours on the clock, it's it needs a smooth playthrough. I actually don't mind playing games on easy mode now, or story mode as they call it, just to take in the story and then move on, because
I'm actually working on a t-shirt design right now that says Team Story Mode, because like at the end of the day, there's people who are like masochists who are like, oh, I gotta play on hardcore mode, and I'm like, no, dude. Like at this day, if I can hit credits on a game, I feel accomplished. So that's all I want.
Certainly.
I don't have time to like brutalize myself to get good enough to actually enjoy it on harder difficulties.
Certainly. Absolute torture.
Now, I do have a question for you guys, because Grime arrives a day late.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you guys fall with them announcing pro games and they're kind of being like, it's not going to be available on the first day of the month? How do you guys feel about that?
It comes down to the marketing again. I actually tweeted out last week because there's a bit we could dig a bit deeper on this topic actually, because the pro games didn't get a blog post this time around. It was a tweet. And I believe on Facebook as well. I'm sure there are other socials did. But if you're not on those social channels, it was... And again, I'm sure there's gamers out there who just wait till the first of the month and then it shows up in the store and surprise. But yeah, it's an interesting... The messaging, I guess, just needs to be a bit clearer. I tweeted out about the pro games because I don't... Well, the next story I guess we can get into is the Marvel Avengers free weekend. It's been and gone now, so sorry listeners if you didn't know, you've missed it. Along with the Olympic Games, we played it last Thursday. Great fun, fantastic games in their own right. But on the marketing, the Avengers banner had the pro red side and the pro title. And I said, is it not a bit misleading that alongside all of the other 5 games that are coming to pro, within the same week, you're getting Avengers with the same artwork, the same aesthetics put out there? And again, some people said, oh, you need to read the full article, but that's not how marketing works. Is if you're putting something out as a visual image to be shared, screenshotted, copy and pasted, unfortunately the article doesn't always follow with the imagery. And
if you just want to see what's coming up, and you don't, a lot of people don't want to sit there and read a blog post. They just want to look at the pictures and go, oh yeah, we're getting Olympic Games, we're getting Control, we're getting Avengers.
Yeah, so back to your question, I think it's just a lot more clarity, maybe a little asterisk in there.
I think for me it's perfectly fine as long as it's told ahead, like, hey, FYI, this is coming on this date as well. Or I'm even down with, like, in the past where them like, we've got one more pro game coming at the end of the month, and it's like, okay, cool, I can't wait to see what that is. But yeah, the Avengers one was weird because I saw they were trying to justify it too, of being like, well, it's a free pro game this weekend, and it's like, that's...
Yeah.
If I claim it this weekend, I don't get to keep it. So it's not technically a pro game.
And Richie, you pointed out before, I think it was either pre or post show from Thursday's stream, the tweet that went along with it is the games are on the house as well. And then the image. So it's almost as like, it doesn't say anywhere in that initial promotion that it's limited time. It just says the games are on the house. Big image of Avengers with the pro banner surrounding it. And again, we all know what happens with things online. It just gets shared and spread out, and it turns into almost like the Whisper game. And
then we get an article that says the Stadia is going out of business.
It just leaves it too open to interpretation. With the internet and the stigmatism around Stadia at this moment in time, I don't think they can risk that anymore. Avengers taken away from pro gamers 3 days after going on pro. It's like, whoa, it was never on pro, technically.
If you have a free-to-play weekend underneath that pro title, then suddenly, I get it for the weekend. It's just being clear about what it is. And
like I said, sorry, go ahead, Brian.
No, I was gonna say my favorite trend right now is where journalists will take like 3 tweets and be like, gamers are outraged. I'm like, you took 3 people.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing here?
Of course, gamers outraged. Gamers are always outraged.
Yeah. Like I could definitely see that happening in this type of situation of just being like Stadia owners are outraged or Stadia owners demand they're going to quit or threaten they're going to quit. It's just like, that's unnecessary drama that they, so it was just an interesting choice on their end.
Yeah, we've said for some time, I think clarity is just, again, they're learning the way. It's still a young business and again, rules change, people move in. We saw how much the marketing has changed just since Shaka obviously moved in. What month was it, Brian?
May.
Correct. 5 points. 5 points for you. That shout out there to Ryzak and the Stadia quiz.
That now.
It's going to be like the year's 2065 pub quiz down at Brian's local with his child as well, who's a full grown adult by then. And what month did Shaka take over as Stadia community manager? Yeah, shout out to Ryzak and the quiz he does over on his channel there. But that kind of brings me full circle to talk about my next thing. Is every week I do a Mafia check-in, Bryant, for games that aren't coming. We're talking about marketing, we're talking about being open and honest and stuff like that, clear communication between companies and their audience. Mafia Definitive Trilogy, we're now 310 days away from it launching on consoles back in September 2020, the 25th to be precise. And we still hear a peep, not a peep from these, the developers, Stadia, and that's just my little rant for the week. I always check in with it. 310 days, folks. We're creeping up on that year mark since we heard anything. Not just the announcement, that was actually that actually happened earlier, the actual date it launched on consoles, which back then, that's when I thought it would drop on Stadia, in line with that. Maybe a month later, at a push. 310 days now. 310 days. But the other thing I want to get back to...
That was supposed to be the trilogy, right?
Yeah. So 3 games. I wonder if that's part of their games for the year.
Now, if we get the in Pro, I think it's redeemable almost slightly, but...
Maybe, as long as it's not a free weekend for Mafia, we'll see what that ends up being.
I would see Mafia 3 going pro, or the first 2 going pro, and then the third one being kind of like what they did with Hitman, right?
Yeah.
Was Hitman 3 pro?
No, not yet.
No, but that was a brand new release, and 1 and 2 were...
Well, this is a trilogy that was sold piecemeal because the first one wasn't finished. So 2 and 3 Definitive Edition launched on consoles, and the original Definitive, which was a full remake, it wasn't just a remaster, was kept until the September launch. So if you bought it on disc, it didn't come with the first in the series, which was such a messed up way of doing it anyway. But it's the silence that gets me. It's the absolute silence from all parties involved. Like, someone just has to answer to their audience, because I was excited to play it and I now don't care. Which brings me on to the next one. A lot of people thought Ark Survival Evolved was going to be an August Pro game, as we were told summer was the last update, I believe. And now we're going into September when we get the next lists. I don't know if September's classed as summer anymore, but the reason I wanted to specifically bring it up is because, Brian, you started your YouTube channel 5 years ago, and your first video was an Ark Survival Evolved drinking game. And in that video game, you quote many, many times, very intoxicated by the end, "I hate Ark Survival Evolved."
Yeah.
So I've got, it's a 2-part question. 1, where do you think Ark Survival Evolved is? And 2, will there be a round 2 drinking game for this game you clearly hate so much? And has it still on Stadia had any impact on how much you love this title?
So, summer in the United States technically ends September 24th. So, the summer guideline, they could still launch. At this point, and what's interesting, to answer your question, yes, it's still going to come in the summer. I think it's going to be a September game, or it could be a shadow drop August game. I definitely think it's still coming, but it's interesting how much of a hot button issue this has become, because like I mentioned Ark in one of my videos of being like, this game's coming to Stadia, and someone in the comment section was like, it's a joke that you even consider that game as coming to Stadia. And I'm just like, wow, like people are getting really heated on this. But for me, Ark is one of those games that I think that people need to kind of readjust what they're expecting with it, because there's no story. I mean, there's a story, but there's no story to the game. Like, you make your own experience with that game. And it can be the funnest game in the world, where you're literally building a castle, taming dinosaurs, and creating harvest and farms and stuff like that, and playing with friends. But then that game is brutal, where you could be harvesting wood in the forest and a raptor runs up on you and kills you in 2 bites. Like, it is a brutal game. And when I was doing the drinking experience, it was the sense of just like I was having such bad luck where I was landing. Like where I was landing, it was just like raptors here, giant snakes here, scorpions here, other players killing you. So it's like adding alcohol into the mix to that is always a challenge. But yeah, I mean, I definitely when it comes to Stadia, much to my wife's disappointment, probably I'm there's going to be a part 2 to that for sure. Because I do hold that game in my heart. I have over 4,000 hours in Ark. And there's a point where the Ark historians will be able to understand where I'm coming from this, but like they put an update out, I want to say it was like 3 years ago, and it wiped every server accidentally. Like there was a bug in it that just completely wiped every server. So at that point I had like 3,000 hours or something in the game, and I had like this moment where I was like, I just invested 3,000 hours of my life into this game and now it's all gone. And I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? Like,
yeah, that's the moment where you go, right, I'm out. I'm done.
Do I start again or do I call it a day right here?
Yeah, and I just remember being so devastated because I was like, oh, I lost all my dinosaurs and my buildings. And it was just like that first realization where you're like, you're not talking about anything that's real. It's just like these digital ones and zeros that I was so devastated about. And yeah, I've been very casual with Ark since then, but it's a game that's built for the clouds, man. Like on PC, it's like something like 150, 180 gigabytes or something like that. So I mean, it's definitely on Stadia. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's. I know the audience, the community is clearly clambering for it because of the, like I said, the story that's developing around it, and I think it is just the length of time from announcement to release, and we know what they like with shadow drops and not putting dates on things, and I think it is just that ambiguity around, well, we don't know when, so it would be exactly the same as waiting for a bus, waiting for a train, your flight to leave at the airport. If you didn't have a time on it, you would just naturally get a bit anxious about, well, is it coming? Is it not coming? What's happening with it? Because again, I think we just like to be informed. That's it. And back to our previous piece.
It's every month when the pro games come out, it comes back into
the
conversation.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
Because where is it? That's...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the other thing, too, and I don't think people really consider, is that Ark has a base game, which is called, like, Ark Vanilla, and then that's the island. But then on top of that, there's, like, 7 other maps, and 3 of them are community designed. So from a Stadia perspective, Studio Wildcard not only has to make sure that Ark Vanilla works, they have to make sure that every single one of those biomes and maps and all the dinosaurs and everything like that works on cloud. And I mean, I can say this with confidence, it barely works on PC. So there's rubber banding issues on Xbox and on PlayStation. I mean, the game has its challenges. So it's like, I can understand why it's taking longer on cloud, because I think that's just a completely different development cycle for those guys. So I just don't want it to be broken when it launches. I think it needs to be a polished game. So that's kind of where I'm like, man, take as long as you want. I've got plenty of other games to play right now.
I think at this point, if it launched broken, then I think that would be it. Would be done on Stadia. It needs to come out the gate. It's not their fault that it's like this narrative is built up behind it. But unfortunately, there is that narrative, and if it's broken and released, people go, "Oh, wait this long for this."
Hopefully, not too much more. Then, ladies and gentlemen, it's still summer. The sun is still high in the sky. Hopefully, not so much in the UK, but maybe where you live, it might.
It was 104 degrees in Texas yesterday. So
I mean, going off the Celsius, which we use over here, that's past boiling point. So that's very hot. So
I just forgot about that.
So what's that? That must be what, 30s?
About 40. 104 is 40.
Damn.
Yeah. 40 degrees. Yeah.
That is toasty.
Nice
but
post.
I'm sure you're set up with aircon over there. We
but
don't.
You know, I was doing yard work yesterday and all the fun adult things you have to do.
I love a bit of yard work. But speaking of what we're talking about, with Arc and some of the rubber banding and the sheer scope of the game. Thankfully, Stadia are working away, Team Stadia, behind the scenes with the developers to cut down on jank and load times in the cloud. And we actually got a surprise post this week over on the Stadia dev blog, where essentially they break down a bit of inside information of how the games run, how the games function. And this is the time of the show I would love to hand it over to Tom, who of course is an IT teacher, and he breaks down all the nitty gritty. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, but the crux of this article is that the way the games feed things is through a virtual pipeline where the data is gathered for everything that's going to happen in the game. So they describe in the article that if a monster pops out, they have to find that file of the monster's image, render it, bring it into the gameplay, and put it right in front of your character. What they have the benefit of doing here is the pipeline, or the game, has multiple versions of this monster. So because it can run multiple versions at any given time, it's quicker. It's essentially what I took from that. And then every time we as gamers play the game, it remembers that and it feeds that file from our experience back into the same memory cache to reuse again. So essentially, the more people that play games on Stadia, the better Stadia will be from all of the kind of like, it's almost like learning from experience. It seems to be like a perpetual cycle of that. Correct me if I've described that wrong, or put me in my place if I have done so. Richie, you got any take on that? Any more techie teacher tips?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I read the article, but I didn't have enough time to read it and fully understand it. So
you're telling me what you need is Brian to make a small
yeah.
social video about 3 or 4 minutes long explaining the breakdown of how
Yes.
this works. Then you'll watch it on your lunch break at work with your sandwich and digest it.
That's exactly right. But I think from my understanding, they're just basically optimizing the pipelines using the machine learning stuff, that very googly stuff.
Unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait a little bit for that video because I have the brain of a monkey. When articles come out that talk about like tech jargon or anything like this, terabytes, teraflops, or anything like that, my brain is just like it just melts. So I read this article and I definitely read it, but I didn't comprehend at all what they were talking.
Yeah, there's a really good graphic image that comes with it, which essentially shows the pipeline cache servers, which it looks like, I'm picturing these as like just states of the game. There's your monster, there's your monster, there's your monster. And you turn a corner and there's your monster. It's one of these three. And then what happens is you see the monster, and then like we know with state share and stuff, Stadia can capture that moment, loop it back around. So instead of having 3 versions of the monster, you've now got 4. All the millions of players who play the game, they add up, and Stadia just keeps them in the cloud. So then going forward, they're able to cut load times down because they've got infinite versions of this monster rather than 3.
It's not just load times that it's going to affect. One of the biggest things I think players might see is, if anyone's played FIFA, you occasionally get these moments where it's not an issue with the cloud, it just gets a bit jarry, where the game was struggling to keep up with itself. It should streamline that sort of stuff, so there's a bit of jankiness where you get a bit of stuttering in the rendering. That's, I think, the biggest thing that end users are going to see from it.
Yeah, there's a very important part in the article. They mentioned the pipeline cache addresses the issues storing the compiled pipelines, which just means all the information. It says the 100 millisecond compilation time for a pipeline becomes under 1 millisecond with this new version. So that's 1 minute of load screen work now down to under a second, which obviously every second is important when it comes to streaming cloud gaming. But it just means it's going to be super fast, and it's only going to get better over time. And in a weird way, the gamers are helping out with this. The more we play the games, the more variations there is to store, save, and then funnel back into the game. It's like a hydro power plant, but for games. It's just constant cycle. But from this little graphic they've put out, I just want to put a little side note on this one. The little image they've got for Stadia in this article, the little hexagon with the S on it, is that a Stadia console? What is that? That little white hexagon there with the Stadia logo on top. Is this concept art for a physical console? I'm only playing, of course.
Now that you bring that up, I mean, that was my big takeaway from this, because I remember looking at that graphic and being like, man, I want to know what their dev kit looks like.
Yeah, because traditionally we would get just the logo, but this is actually on a little box of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah. That might just be an internal symbol.
I'm sure it is.
The stick, that's what we use. We needed something for our design docs.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it literally looks like loads of Windows documents being shared with loads of PowerPoint arrows as far as this image goes. But
So this is a deep question, and obviously we don't have time to jump fully into it. But I like to gauge other Stadia players. If they offered a console, a physical console, zero streaming, would you pick it up?
Yes. But I feel like that's also biased because of what we make here, and I need it on my shelf behind me to go, look, there it is. But as just if from a gamer's point of view, I don't think I would need it. But from a content and Stadia fans' point of view, I probably want it for the collection to go with my Wasabi and every other piece of shit I don't need, but I have anyway.
Yeah.
Richie?
Yeah, I don't really see how it would be beneficial to me, to be perfectly honest. So I probably wouldn't, because I have Stadia. I have multiple ways of playing Stadia in my house already. It would cost my entire house, so it's like I don't know where this would actually improve my experience. So I probably wouldn't.
And that's why he's in charge of finances for the channel.
Yeah, I think my response to that has always been like, I don't want a console as much as I would just want the ability to download games so I can play them offline. I think that would be the biggest request that I could have, because like with me traveling, if I could continue my Stadia experience on the plane, like while we're in the air, that would be killer. And then almost like how Google Docs works, where it saves your experience when you're offline, like almost have a Stadia offline mode. I think that would be huge for them more than just a console.
I think it would be good for like rural areas of countries where the internet service isn't as good, so you can get them people into the ecosystem as parts of the country catch up.
Yeah. And then in 2077, when internet's fiber is absolutely everywhere, then you can get rid of them.
Oh God, can you imagine the articles though? It's like, Stadia, and get Stadia abandoning cloud gaming.
Yeah, but that's for another day. But yeah, the load time news, fantastic. Yes, I would buy one. Richie, evidently not. Let us know in the comments below if you would buy a physical console, just for the sake of it, or just because you think it would be necessary. Moving back to a little bit more about games, we spoke about the internal workings of games. Let's get back to some more that have been rated. So we've got a couple of games listed this week for Stadia from our friends over at Stadia Source News, and also a special shout out to Cody Malone as well. Maloney, sorry, I saw loads of his tweets going out where he's seen them on the rating sites. First up, we have the Falconeer, was rated by ESRB. Soar through the skies aboard a majestic warbird, explore a stunning oceanic world, and engage in epic aerial dogfights in this BAFTA-nominated air combat game from a solo developer, we should point out, the one Thomas Sala. And essentially, to put a finer pinpoint on it, gentlemen, it is eagles with frickin' laser beams on their frickin' heads shooting around in the sky. And that sounds cool as shit to me. I don't know about you two. Richie, what do you make of this one? It's like Panzer Dragoon, but with eagles and lasers.
Yeah, I think it's one that's very much interesting, but I do feel I want to see a bit more of the game, like before I would commit. But it could be a really good pro game, to be honest, especially with it being a single developer. Yeah, I'm interested.
All the money goes to him. What about you, Bryant?
I'm definitely interested in this, but I'm trying to remember. Is it? Oh, see, I always get this game and Falcon Age, which is the VR game, confused.
Is that Ubisoft, that one? Or?
Yeah, that's one where like you can like cast your falcon out and it like attacks people. But like this game does look fun. Falconeer, it looks pretty sick.
BAFTA nominated, so it must be doing something right. And
sure.
I'm always impressed with games when they say it's one developer, like just one person sat at their computer, coding away to the heart's content. And video games are so crazy that you can have these studios that have like thousands of employees, for better or for worse. Activision Blizzard, we won't get into that here. Or you can have one person sat in the house. And it's video games are so cool, man. Like, yeah, amazing. Other ratings we had this week, which leads us into our SideQuest topic. We got some titles from Outright Games, who let's face it, they are going to town on Stadia ratings at the moment. We have, where have we got the list? We've got, I'll put them in certain order. We've got Troll Hunt, or DreamWorks, to give it its full title, Troll Hunters, from Guillermo del Toro, Defenders of Arcadia. Just rolls right off the tongue. That one has been rated on Stadia. So jump into the world of Troll Hunters. Jim Lake Jr. as Jim Lake Jr. to stop Pogon the Trickster Troll and his sneaky plans. It looks very much like a 3D, 2D side-scroller game with little mini-games in and amongst. evidently based on DreamWorks Troll Hunters. I, for one, have never heard of this franchise or IP before. Brian, any further advance on Troll Hunters? Is this your favourite movie of all time? Oh.
No, I mean I'm a big Guillermo fan, and up until you saying his name, I had no idea he was involved. So I'll give it a look just for Guillermo, but this isn't really for me.
It looks like if you took maybe Grime, took away all the griminess, and give it to a children's TV show, and DreamWorks evidently, this is what you would get. So it's rated. It may be coming. We will see soon. But that wasn't the only one. If that doesn't do anything for you, Brian, we've also got Race with Ryan, which
one I would like to take I'll let you explain what it is, but I would like to make a comment on this game.
Now, I think I'm in the same boat for the same reason as you. So Ryan's Well has come to life, and it's every bit as colourful, fun, and fast as you imagine. Pick a racer, head to one of 6 magical locations, and step on the gas to show your friends and family who the fastest racer really is. This is from, I believe, the same world as like the Paw Patrol people, and it's a kart racer called Race with Ryan. Brian, why is this doing it for you?
So, number one, love kart racers, but I would like to call out Ryan. So, if you guys don't know who Ryan is one of the biggest YouTubers in the world. The channel is called Ryan's World. It used to be called Ryan's Toy Review. And here at Walmart and all the local stores like Target, he has his own toy line, and he's got video games apparently now, and he used to do unboxings and just play with them. So this is his video game, outright game. But I'm going to call Ryan out right now because granted, he's like a 9-year-old boy or something like that. But if you think you can come into the cloud gaming space and immediately become the best, gaming YouTuber now because you got a video game on Stadia, you got another thing coming. I'm going to hop into your racing game, and I'm going to hit you with some blue shells. All right, Ryan? You watch yourself.
We can give him third place.
It sounds like, Brian, you're challenging this 10-year-old boy to a race in his own game.
Yes.
See you on the track.
29 million subscribers, so I think we can understand why I'm challenging him.
Can we get into that?
You love to see it. Huge cast of Ryan's friends are along for the race as well. We've got Policeman Ryan in his patrol car, Red Titan Ryan, Gus the Gummy Gator, Pirate Combo Panda, plus many, many more. For me, the fact that we're getting a kart racer, I would have took Nickelodeon races. I would have loved to see Crash Team Racing. I would have took what was the one with the soapboxes? Just everyone's in a soapbox. It was like Coffin Dodgers, was it called? I think.
It was a Lego kart racer before.
Lego kart races for the PC. That was the jam back in the day. But yes, Race with Ryan, also rated by Outright Games. And then probably the one that's more up my street because I have actually watched this show. We're also getting Adventure Time, the Pirates of Enchiridion. I phonetically spelled this out in the doc, and I still feel like I've said it wrong. Enchiridion. Enchiridion? Is it from the cartoon? I do not know. It's Adventure Time.
Die-hard fans, because they're going to be like, Enchiridion. It's going to be in the comment section.
Most likely. But I have watched Adventure Time with Jake and Finn, of course. I don't actually remember much of it for some reason. I watched, I think, the entire 6 seasons, whatever it was, and my brain now, I can't... If you said, what's your favourite episode, my brain would just blank. But either way, I always like the fact that the Ice King's voiced by SpongeBob. That does something for me. But Richie, I think you're a big Adventure Time fan as well, right?
I wouldn't say I'm a big Adventure Time fan, but I have watched probably, I think maybe 4 or 5 seasons, and I did enjoy it. But like you, it was like, I'm sat here trying to go, actually, I can't really remember any specific episodes. I just remember enjoying Adventure Time. Yeah,
it's that weird line between, it's obviously a children's cartoon, but it's also, the comedy for adults is 100% there. And I think that's the best show, especially for parents. Something that you can both enjoy across all ages. Even if you are Ryan with his 19 million YouTube followers, you could enjoy this just as much. But it is the land of Ooh is underwater, and it's up to Finn and Jake to find out why. Join our heroes as they explore the high seas in search for hidden clues, interrogate shady suspects, in fact, and fight pirates to solve the mystery. It reminds me of just the SpongeBob game we got not too long back. 3D action platformer, jump around, take different shapes, solve puzzles, collect things. with the Adventure Time voice cast as well from the series.
Is it an action platformer? Because to me it looks like a turn-based combat.
Oh, actually, yeah. Now you said that out loud, I'm thinking, yeah. You're totally right. It's a JRPG. It's not really. Sorry, turn-based. I thought there was like some open world-ness to it, but I guess we'll have to find out.
I mean, Pokemon's technically an open world.
That's true. But either way, we'll find out. They've all been rated, which is never a guarantee, we should point out. But all of these titles, and some we reported on last week, have all came from Outright Games. There seems to be some deal going on with Outright Games, which I'll throw it over to you, Richie, leads us to our SideQuest topic for the week, where we're going to be doing a deeper dive into one of these particular subjects from the show. What's our topic this week, Richie, for SideQuest?
We've actually talked about this briefly in the past, but we felt like with this news coming, and in honor of Tom's new child, congratulations again, Tom and Holly, we're going to do an episode on should there be a Stadia Kids subscription.
So we'll be diving into all that immediately after we record this podcast. And don't forget, our members get this up to 6 days early. Today, in fact, the time of recording on the Sunday. From as little as 99p, you get access to that, special badges, stickers and emojis, and exclusive chat content as well. But don't worry, we don't gatekeep anything. If you want to keep that 99p in your pocket, do not fear. It will drop on free feeds on our YouTube channel on Fridays as well, 6 days later. But if you want it early and you like to support us a little bit more to bring you better Stadia quality content, hit join below on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Finally, moving on, wrapping up for the show, gentlemen, a couple of updates for some games we got this week. We have Avengers updates. They've just had a free weekend. I've seen my Twitter feed explode with people playing it, people checking it out. Our Discord chat, there's a couple of people in our community who've been playing it for the first time, mostly the campaign, enjoying it while there's been 4 times 4 XP, discounts on bonus boosters and new unlockable stuff as well. But for me, most importantly, War for Wakanda, the Black Panther content that is free, of course, to all owners of the game, is coming on 16th of August. So just under 2 weeks away, we'll have new story content, which for me seems to be proper story content. It's not just the Hawkeye, the Kate Bishop stuff was... I mean, Richie, we did a live stream of the Kate Bishop stuff and we finished it within 2 hours. So it wasn't lengthy. Like, we actually got the end of the live stream and that was just it. It was over. Yeah. So this is a substantial one. It's a whole new area, Wakanda, a whole new hub world, along with a story and obviously a brand new character in Black Panther as well, King T'Challa himself. So, Brian, while we've got you on the show, where do you sit in the Avengers world? Have you played the game? Have you checked it out? Who's your favourite hero?
Yeah, I actually picked it up when it launched, and then I finally beat it 3 weeks ago. So it just kind of fell off of it. But, I mean, played the original story. I haven't played the Kate Bishop thing, so I guess I have a question for you guys of, like, with this Wakanda update, do I need to play through the Kate Bishop stuff to get to the Wakanda, or will it be completely separate?
I would say it's not necessary. It will probably add another layer potentially for where Wakanda has been through this whole time. Similar to the movies, how has it existed and no one knows? I feel like the Kate Bishop stuff might add another layer as to why we're now in Wakanda.
Okay.
Wakanda? Why do I say it like that? But either way, I don't think it's necessarily important. And if it is, you could finish it in 2 hours. So,
like you said,
that was 2 hours in the live stream. You could probably finish it quicker if you went for it as well.
Skip all the side pieces. But I'm just excited for this. It does lead me to laugh a little bit. All those poor people who purchased it on PlayStation for the Spider-Man exclusive stuff. Yeah. And it's still not even... I think the developer did come out and clarify... it's in the article I've got. Today, Black Panther's news makes no mention of the long-awaited hero Spider-Man, who was revealed to be coming as a PlayStation exclusive in early 2021, prior to the game's launch. Crystal Dynamics studio head Scott Amos addressed it and said, "It's still on the roadmap for the future." That was it.
I wonder if they got so much negative press for that one that they're just holding off as long as they can to bring it.
Black Panther was the studio's priority.
The inevitable.
It's
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I think then you just delay the inevitable, though. It's like it's coming regardless when it comes, and I think the longer you delay it, actually the worse it is at this point.
Well, and they had a lot of issues earlier this year with their community, where it was like their community was upset that there wasn't enough updates and there wasn't communication going through. Yeah. Like it seems like the first half of this year for them has really been kind of working the kinks out of the game. Like, it blows my mind that you can only now almost a year since this game has launched, be able to play as the same superhero as another person.
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy.
They've explained that in some kind of time frame. It's like basically like similar to the Loki show. If anyone's watched that, it's like there's variants of the same one, and that's now why you can play as 4 Hulks at the same time. Which is it's very interesting. I think Square Enix, in their own right, have some work to do around messaging. We've seen it a lot with the Stadia community and Outriders. It's been 3 months, and their communication for the Stadia version of that game has been non-existent. Very disappointing. I know a lot of people have reached out for refunds, even after passing the 2-hour mark or the 2-week mark, and that's just because of how little effort they've put into letting people what's going on with patch updates. I think the Stadia version was the vanilla version for many weeks, months, even possibly since launch. So just glad I didn't buy Outriders in the end. I was very hyped for it, and then I fell off in the last week or so. So either way. Moving on though to one of the final stories of the week, we've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla has also added level scaling, fun enough, and the ability to use one-handed swords, which has been a much requested need apparently. I don't know about you guys, your sword handling. Do you prefer two-hander or one? Any preference?
Usually in games I'd go for one, but to be honest, with Assassin's Creed I was happy to play with axes. It just felt more right for my character. More
like a Viking. It is coming as part of the... I'm not going to try and say the word. I'll just butcher it completely. It's spelled SIGRBLOT Festival. It is coming out as part of this with some more updates and such as well. And they give a date for the next DLC content, which is the Siege of Paris expansion, which lands on 12th of August as well. So if you're still playing Valhalla out there, strap in, because there's more on the way for this evidently Assassin's Creed run into games as a service, which I do need to get back to, but time and everything else. Final story.
Before we move on, we should point out as well, with the level scaling, it is completely optional, and you can set different tiers of it.
Yeah, they did the same for Origins.
If you're not one the level scaling, you don't need it. But if you want to go up to nightmarish and make the game even harder for you, you can.
Yeah, it was. They did the same with Origins and Odyssey, where people found they'd finished the game and they were so high, the final kind of moments were even easier than the opening moments, so the game felt a bit imbalanced, and they tweaked that. But yeah, it always comes later for some reason. I'm guessing it just isn't priority when they launch these titles. But Assassin's Creed, great game if not. And if you finish the main story, go check out our spoilercast video where me and Richie spoke for well over an hour and a half, I think it was. Never intended, it just got a bit out of hand, and we went down the rabbit hole, as you can do with video games. Final one from me then this week is Google Stores had some updates. Nice little positive stories to end on. It looks like they're packaging, gentlemen, the new Chromecast alongside the controller. Actually, Brian, I saw you tweet this. Was it just yesterday? Asking about
last night. Or I guess
it was last night. Yeah, early hours of this morning for me. They've put it online as it's the plain watch package with Google TV, because they have to add that in there as well. You were asking probably the same way of thinking. Is this like one just solid package, or are you getting sent 2 boxes in the post?
Yeah, and I have a few people at Stadia following me, and I was really hoping some of them would have spoke up, but there's only one way to figure this out, so I just bit the bullet and bought it. So I have it arriving on the 4th, so I should know in about a couple days now.
Yeah, I think
I would be expecting 2 boxes, to be honest, because
that's where I'm at, because
you can customize your color combinations.
Yeah, because I feel like it's too many SKUs. It would be if you have there's 9 different options on, or no, more than that. There's 4 different controllers, 3 different Chromecasts. So I mean, from a combo perspective, that becomes pretty tough.
Mix and match.
Then you got your add-ons as well with the adapter.
As much as I would love to see a brand new box, maybe. Yeah, I see your stack of controllers behind you. I've got those exact same ones hidden back behind here, but I'd love to get new packaging. I think it would be really cool. And as Stadia progresses into retail, now they've got Best Buy, and they also have their retail store in New York City. They do need to do some more branding, I think, from a package perspective, that I think that this bundle definitely could benefit from.
Yeah, certainly. We've been saying that for some time, just regarding if any physical presence out there within the GameSpots and Walmarts where they have their Google sections now, and it's just some physical presence out there in the real world that isn't just the cloud. But you like to think they know what they're doing. And final story for the week, gentlemen. Destiny, Bungie put a blog post out announcing that crossplay is finally coming. We got a little teaser a few weeks back when they accidentally flipped the switch on and people were going, it's working, it's up and running, it's available now. And then they quickly pulled it away and said, no, we were just testing the waters. Surprise. It's coming as part of Season 15. Crossplay comes to life. Guardians across Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and Stadia will be able to join all their fire teams and take on the darkness together. Interesting enough, it looks like Stadia is being bundled in with the console platforms, so you're not going to come across any mouse and keyboard clickers out there. And they're also going to...
Stadia.
I think that's the caveat. I think they're going to limit it potentially by the announcement to keep everything fair, because they're in the blog post they're going quite in depth about keeping everything fair across all platforms. So much so they're actually going to rebrand everyone under a Bungie name. So your Stadia, your Xbox, your PlayStation name, you will all be given a Bungie title, which will have a bunch of numbers and hashtags and stuff next to it. But it creates a level playing field across the board where you can reach out to friends regardless of their platform. And they have also reiterated that cross-save will become clearer in the future. They were hoping to launch it in line with this, but they're having a couple of glitches behind the scenes. So rightly so, they've held that one back until that is good to go, because for me that is going to elevate everything. Yeah, I have a save file on Destiny 2 on PlayStation that I'm just waiting to pull across because I don't want to start from scratch again. But yeah, it's good stuff. Destiny, again, we know the one that Bungie have been supporting Stadia since day one. It's definitely one of the biggest flagpoles, especially with it being free to play. And we talk about barrier to entry. This is for me still one of the biggest titles on the platform that should be pulling in audiences consistently. And I'm now hoping with crossplay and cross save, all the people on the other platforms may want to detach themselves from their console going forward and try this out on their phone, at work, on the move. And crossplay and cross save just helps that along.
Yep. I think that this is going to be such a huge update for the game, and I think it's going to bring life to it. Because, I mean, across the board, I mean, I was a big D1 fan, and Destiny 2 was fun, but with this update and then the new season of content coming up, man, they could easily knock this out of the park and become the most number one trending game in the world again, if they do this properly.
Yeah. It's end game content is why Destiny's thrive. Like we talk about Avengers and like how the end game was non-existent and how now it's struggled and the fan base falls off. And just looking at the free weekend they've just done, people will come back and play it if there's stuff to do, and that is always the problem. And Destiny is just Bungie, absolute experts when it comes to this, but it just keeps on living, and every update makes it bigger and better, and people come back to it and people play it. We've got friends who've put thousands upon thousands of hours into Destiny 2, and there's no sign of that stopping anytime in the future.
It's interesting you bring up in-game content that Square chose to do this week or this past weekend as their free-to-play weekend and not the weekend right before Wakanda drops. Because then you get everybody hooked. They're playing it, they like the game, and then this brand new expansion drops on Monday, and the only way you can get it is by buying the game. I feel like that would have been a huge win for them.
That would make total marketing sense. I wonder if they've got like some kind of algorithm that says like, oh, the trend is any newcomers to the game tend to take this long. But then you're totally right. Yeah, it would make sense to think you do it before, and then people will be like, oh, well, I enjoyed that. How much is this one? And again, the Wakanda stuff's free, so buying the game doesn't seem as harsh if you're getting a whole new world for free as well. But who knows whatever goes on behind the scenes at these companies. Some things seem crazy, some things seem dead smart. But final story for the week, and then we will wrap up. Speaking of things that I guess aren't smart, but are very smart at the same time. Playing Sekiro Shadows Die twice with a blindfold on. A little fun one just to wrap things up for the show this week. There's a person out there who's crazy enough. His streamer name is Mitchriz. He completed Sekiro in 4 hours and 35 minutes, completely blindfolded. I can't even comprehend finishing the game in that time with my sight, let alone...
Is he a speedrunner?
Yeah, he is a speedrunner. He's done it a few times, and he's gone to shave his time off. But yeah, he did it over the last few days, and I've seen a few clips from it. And he uses audio cues from like when he hits the enemies. He hits walls with his sword to know where like the edge of the map is. He uses the grapple points to kind of realign himself in the world so he knows where he's at. And there's a few times he did have to reload a save point to kind of reposition himself in the world. And I'm just thinking, if I shut my eyes, 3 seconds later, I'd literally be at a wall, just running into a wall, not going anywhere.
Some speedrunners are insane. If you ever watch like GDC sort of stuff, like they know game. Like sometimes you think, oh, game, like I know Ocarina of Time really well. Then these people know Ocarina of Time really, really well to like a different level that I just can't even comprehend. So.
Yeah, he defeated one of the bosses by glitching them out of the world. Whilst blindfolded. Just let that sink in. Whilst blindfolded. Like, if we all shut our eyes now and try to finish this podcast, I'd end up deleting the file, not knowing where it would fall off my chair, something like that.
Put your hands on your head. Put your hands on your head.
Oh, that's about the limit of what I would be able to do. That is absolutely crazy. But it just shows you anything is possible, just like watching this full podcast through its entirety. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for this week's show, episode 97 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. We do have some exciting news in the pipeline for episode 100 as we come around to that being just on the horizon. Thank you very much again to Brian stopping by as an honoured guest on this episode of the podcast. Before we do leave, Brian, would you like to let the people out there know where they can find you and what channels to look out for you on?
Yeah, for sure. YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that type of stuff. Just go to the Nerf Report. Posting content over there, uploading videos daily or twice a day at this point. Trying to hit every single vertical, portrait, short mode for TikTok and YouTube Shorts and all that type of fun stuff. And then we just try to have fun. I think I look at it from the perspective of trying to hit that everyday gamer who's just playing one game a year and doesn't want to take things too seriously. So if you're looking for a fun experience, stuff like that, please hit us up, follow us on social, and then congratulations to you guys, episode 90, almost 100 episodes. That's a huge feat on YouTube. So congratulations to you guys for that.
Thank you very much. We're looking forward to it. It's still crazy to think that we've managed it consistently. Every Monday it goes out here, YouTube, like you'll know all about uploading and thumbnails and all of that
almost
stuff.
2 years we've managed to keep this going.
Yeah. Even through pandemics and everything, which is actually in a weird way made it a little bit easier, if we're probably honest, just because we can't leave the house. But
less busy.
You're less busy. Yeah, it's all time and effort, and we do it, of course. We started as a hobby, but as you'll know, Brian, the community that kind of grows around you, and specifically for us with Stadia, you're all a wonderful group of people, and it just kind of, I don't want to say it doesn't keep the lights on, because that would be very worrying if that's where I was at in my life, but it keeps the lights on up here in my head, which makes me come back every week and gather the news and read the topics and talk about it, because your engagement, your feedback, it's all about community. We're all gamers out there. We love to talk about games, play games when we can, and that's what we're all here for. So gaming and having fun. Play wherever makes you the most happy is what we say here, don't we, Richie? Play wherever makes you the most happy is our mantra. So thank you once again, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you again, Bryant. Very happy to get you on finally. It's been a long time coming, but you've been an absolute fantastic guest, and you will be hanging around for the SideQuest show as well, where we're going to go away and talk about Stadia Kids. Is that an option? Should that be an option? What games could possibly be in that list? We're going to talk about all that, and remember, our members get it up to 6 days early. Don't forget to hit like if you somehow haven't done so already. That's the end of the show. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
My name's Brian.
Everyone forgets that bit. Right? Yeah, you did it right. That's right.
We don't tell people we're going to do that.
We don't. Yeah, it's something we always forget about, but that's always the way we wrap it up. So yes, we've been Sounds of Stadia plus a very special guest. Thank you for watching and listening, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great week. Game on.